Hello everyone. This is what I look like. So hey, if you're watching this on your phone, then good. It's a YouTube video, but this is how these classes work. So I'll just do a quick webcam, and then I'm going to shift to the Prezi presentation, so you'll hear my voice. So welcome, and here we go. In this lecture, we're going to look at the teaching profession as an overview and kind of look at what's going on in the schools and how, as an educator, we can just kind of get our foot into the door of this realm. The teaching is a profession, and let me just click to the next one. All right. Usually the definition of what a secondary school is grades 7 through 12. Many times you'll hear the word middle school, and middle school is loosely defined as 6 through 8, but it's also been defined as 5th through 7th. So that's, and elementary is always our kindergartens through our 6th grade. But kindergarten can also go kindergarten to 8th grade in some areas of the nation. So put simply, a teacher is one who instructs another. So if you are teaching someone, then you are a teacher. That's good. Now, what is a public school teacher? That's someone teaching other people in a public school realm and receiving compensation for that. In the book I'm looking at, chapter 1, page 3, it says that the characteristics are predominantly female. 76% of teachers are female. 84% are white. The average age is 46 years of age, or 42. It's shifted over, it's gotten younger. The highest degree obtained are usually the master's degree. And average class size for elementary teachers is 21, and for secondary is 24. So you kind of get an idea of what your class size is going to be. You're usually around 20 to 24 students. And so that's good. Average number of hours per week spent on teaching or other school-related issues. For elementary teachers, 51 hours, and for secondary, 53 hours. So teachers are really working overtime every week to get ready or to prepare themselves for school, and of course, they're not getting compensated for that because they are salaried employees. So why become a teacher is a good question. So let's look at this. There is a critical teacher shortage across the nation. We know these numbers. I've discussed them before. 3,000 teachers a year are needed to replace retiring teachers, and 3,000 teachers are needed to replace teachers who just quit. The statistic everyone always gets is 55% of all teachers quit after the first 5 years. Number one cited reason is it is not what I expected. So 55% of all of our teachers quit after the first 5 years. The statistics also show that there is a drop-off, another 50% drop-off at year 12. So if you make it to year 12, half of the teachers will quit then too. And the ones who make it past year 12 are generally the ones who are going to go to retirement. So there is a teacher shortage. One reason there's a teacher shortage is money, of course. There's not a very large, you're not going to get extremely wealthy being a teacher. But also, if you're going to go to school for many years and possibly accrue some student debt, then you're probably going to try to get a degree that's going to pay it off faster. And many people are discouraged when teachers only make an X amount of money, and that's something many people will go into banking or in businesses such as that. Another reason there's a teacher shortage is there is an increase in population. The population is obviously going up every year. Generally, the trends are going up, and with more people, that means that there's more children, and more children means more schools. Schools are also expanding. Large amounts of money are being spent towards schools and expanding, and we need teachers to fill those classrooms. So job security is a very good thing to be an educator. Also, vacation is a good thing. You get summers off, and you do not work nights, so that's good. Even though many teachers would tell me that they do to bring work home at night. But okay, you don't work night shifts and you don't work the weekends, and you get a good steady 8 to 4 on the clock time, even sometimes 7:30 to 4. That's fine. So that's a really good thing is job security, vacation, and also you get autonomy in the classroom. Autonomy in the classroom. I'm going to show you a video about teacher shortage, and that's going to be followed up by a video from the Mississippi Associations of Educators talking about the Mississippi teacher shortage.
A major teacher shortage in the U.S. is resulting in many schools facing a crisis. The problem isn't going away anytime soon, and one local university addresses why there is a shortage. News 8's Sarah Tamer is here to tell us how one new graduate is hoping to bring some change.
Lisa, the country is facing its first major teacher shortage since the 1990s. Officials with the teaching program at Winona State University say the problem is getting worse. But one student who graduated today hopes more people like him will help change the trend.
It just felt like the right calling to get to, impact 80, 90 kids a year instead of sitting at a desk crunching numbers for someone else.
Like many recent graduates, Grant Gill has been waiting for this moment. But unlike some graduates, he already began that next chapter 1 year ago when he landed a job teaching math in St. Charles while he was still a student himself.
I get to go in there and I try and bring energy that they might not see from a normal teacher.
Gill was hired during his final year of college while student teaching. But while this high-demand job is good for new graduates, it's part of a much bigger problem.
We have teacher shortages in various areas. Included in those would be special education, math, and science.
Morgan says there's no easy fix.
Teachers, I think nationwide, are feeling a little bit beat up. There's a lot of testing that they're being held accountable for, which is, I'm not saying it's good or bad, but it seems as though to me that there's a lot of burden that's been put on the place of teachers.
Part of the struggle comes from low pay and fewer students enrolling in teaching programs. Another part is keeping teachers in the profession.
Teachers leave the profession. There's a statistic that half the teachers leave the profession within the first 5 years.
Morgan says it's negatively impacting children who thrive off of consistency. But Gill says he's hoping he can help to break that cycle.
When you have a teacher that really truly cares about all the students and their well-being, that's when you can make a difference. It might just be one kid's life, but if you can change one kid's life, then that's worth doing for.
Winona State Education Program officials say this is the first semester where they've had districts reaching out to them wanting to hire students during their student teaching semester. A total of 5 student teachers from Winona State have accepted full-time teaching positions before graduating.
Wow. Now, if we were to compare what we saw with the teacher workforce 20 years ago to today, what would we see?
Well, simply put, 20 years ago, student teachers had a really hard time finding jobs out of college simply because people weren't leaving the teaching positions at the rate that they're leaving them now. And so there really is no solution to the problem except for just simply encouraging more people to get into the profession and staying in it too.
All right, thanks so much, Sarah.
You're welcome.
Keep educators in the Magnolia State.
And according to one lawmaker, there are hundreds of teachers vacancies statewide. Jewel Hillary joins us live now from the state capitol with more on what they have planned. Good morning, Jewel.
Good morning, Brandon. Good morning, Katina. Well, the Teacher Shortage Task Force meeting is expected to take place starting at 10 o'clock this morning here at the state capitol. And the chairman of the Senate Education Committee, he told me that there are at least 1,000 teaching vacancies across the state of Mississippi. However, leaders with the Mississippi Association of Education, they believe that many of those spots could be filled by simply paying teachers' salaries a little bit more. And joining us this morning, we have the president of the MAE, Miss Joyce Helmig. Joyce, thank you so very much for joining us this morning. I know this is a battle that you all have been fighting for several years now, but what's different in your approach in terms of trying to get more pay for teachers?
Well, this year we had backtracked to after the session last year, and we started working with our members, traveling across the state, training our members to know exactly what it is they want in their priorities. And then we have trained them to talk with their legislators, and we have a huge grassroots effort going on all the way across the state. We've trained teachers, we've worked with educators of all levels, And we have introduced our CARE Act, which
Okay.
is confirm a raise for educators. We hit the streets with that, so to speak, in September, and we're going full throttle with it.
Okay, so more optimistic this year that there could be some change this legislative session in terms of getting more pay for teachers?
Actually, we're hearing a lot of positive feedback on that. We're very optimistic about that, partially because of our grassroots efforts, and because we know that there's money there to support our public schools, and we're very excited that many of our lawmakers have decided that this is the time to support our teachers in our public schools.
All right, Joyce, thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Brandon and Katina, back to you guys in the studio.
Jewel, thanks. New this morning, a Pine Belt superintendent is under fire from a state senator over what he said about the country.
So those videos give you some alternate sense of what the teacher shortage is. One thing that they always stress is teacher pay. That's something that happens a lot. In the second video, you'll notice that the MAE president looked very cold. That's because that video was shot around January or February, and that's also coincides with the time that the Mississippi legislators are in session determining the budget. So she was on the news advocating for pay raises because that's the time that they do heavy lobbying. This, of course, is the pay scale. You are aware of this, and you've seen this. The pay is based on 4 levels, level of education. A1 is an A, 2, AA, 3, and then 4A. And then the second big level is years of experience, which can go all the way down to 35 years. Where will you teach? That's a good question. Whenever you become a teacher, you'll have to choose where you want to teach. And there's always satisfactions and dissatisfactions of teaching. And the book I'm looking at is page 6, which says what exactly is that teachers find satisfying and dissatisfying. Of course, one of the biggest factors is testing. Testing is very stressful to teachers, and they feel that the accountability movement has caused them stress. They like the idea of being able to control their own curriculum. That's a good thing. Very few teachers are motivated by salary or to enter teaching at all, or benefits. One of the biggest dissatisfier is inadequate resources. Teachers do not have enough supplies in their classroom. But one thing you need to ask is, where will you teach? One thing is called a magnet school, so we need to make sure we know this terminology. A magnet school is just what it sounds like. It is a school that attracts or pulls a certain demographic or type of student towards them. So for example, you could have a magnet school that is paid for by public money that is for arts and sciences, or a magnet school that's just for mathematics, or a magnet school that's for gifted students. It's a school that's trying to attract one group of students. We have one major magnet school in the state, and there's the Mississippi School for Math and Science in Columbus, Mississippi. MSMS is a public school paid for by public taxpayers' dollars, but it is recruits across the state. It has been approved to be a magnet school, and that's how it works. I believe it's 9th and 10th grade, or 11th and 12th grade. I think it's 9th and, I don't know. But they take the top 2 years, and then you go to that school. When I was at a very small high school, they went over and stopped and tried to recruit some people. The biggest downside with the Mississippi School for Math and Science is you'll be living away from home. So you're 14 or 15 and you're moving away. So it is very stressful that way. But it's a great school, and some of y'all may have gone there. And I have a friend who went there, and it's a very good school. He's a doctor now. He's very successful. So public school. Public school is just what it sounds like. It is a school open to anyone in the public. Be clear with that. A public school has to allow anyone who is a taxpayer who lives in the county that they have, the school district that it is, to attend that school. Now, before you start saying, there's no way, there's got to be an age limit. There is not. A 50-year-old man or a 100-year-old man can attend a public school in Mississippi. We had to check on that. We had a 25-year-old try to attend our school, and they were told they were allowed to. You can receive special education services up to the age of 21, I believe, but they can stop that. That's federal money. But a 50-year-old man doesn't have a high school diploma, wants to go to school, There's nothing the school can do to stop that. They may want to move him towards a GED program, which is fine. But yes, a public school has to allow anyone in the public to go. Not only does the public school allow anyone to go, the public school is also mandated by state law to provide transportation to go pick up everyone if they cannot get to school. Now, schools can put laws in place that say if you live within 1 mile or 2 miles of the school, you will have to walk to school. Meridian Public does that, which is fine. They have nice sidewalks. But you cannot make someone walk 50 miles or 20 miles or whatever. But also schools have to provide a school bus to the students, so a public school will come pick you up at your house. If you don't have enough money, you can get free or reduced lunches, and you can get fed, and you can get a free education. Simple as that. I have issues with the free and reduced lunch, and let me make sure I clarify that to you so you don't get mad at me. I personally believe every student should get a free lunch. The free lunch system is based on income, not expenses. So, for example, my parents were registered nurses, and they made, I would guess, $60,000, $70,000 total combined. Well, we did not qualify for reduced lunches, but they also had 4 kids, and 2 of them were in college, so we had no money. So even though on paper we looked like we had money, we didn't have money. So I think everyone should receive a free lunch. Everyone. I think that's the way it should be. I think the free and reduced lunch system I don't like the way it's based on just salary. It should be, everyone should get a free lunch. I think that's the least the school can do, is provide some food for everyone. All right, so that's my soapbox right there. So anyone in public school can go to the public school. The next is a charter school. I have a video describing what a charter school is, and I'll show that at this time.
I don't know how it happened so quickly, but my baby's starting school next fall. Now we're onto a new adventure, finding her a school. So, yesterday, when I heard some parents talking about charter schools, I was all ears. One woman says, "I've heard charter schools are fantastic, but they're impossible to get into." And then another one says, "No way, don't you read the paper? They're all fronts for stealing government money." And then this dad chimes in, "Oh, come on, supposedly they have really high test scores, but they're insanely strict." Ugh, I needed to find out for myself. So, I went online, and was I ever surprised to learn just how different charter schools can be? Of the over 5,000 charter schools nationwide, some are extraordinarily high performing, but others are, well, the opposite. They can be everything from your child working at the computer at home to a big brick and mortar school where the kids wear uniforms, and some where they even go to school on Saturdays, and everything in between. Some charter schools are really small, founded by a group of parents, or a single educator with a special focus like music or science, or a philosophy like Montessori. Some of the most successful charter schools are called CMOs. These are single organizations with many charter schools bound by a single vision and a single mission. One thing I learned, charter schools are not one species. So what are they then? They are free public schools. Usually they're non-selective, but not always. When there's high demand, students are chosen by lottery. And they all have their own charter to operate independently outside the local school district. This gives each charter school more freedom to make decisions about how to spend money and serve students. In exchange, charter schools are supposed to be accountable. If they don't meet certain standards, they can have their charter revoked and shut down. If I had relied on the opinions from the playground chatter, I'd still be lost in a wilderness of charter school myths. The only safe path? Do your research and visit the school. Your child will thank you.
The state of Mississippi allowed charter schools a couple of years ago. They create a charter school review board, which the proposals are due every year, and it's pretty in-depth and difficult to create. But a charter school receives tax money from the Mississippi to create pretty much a semi-private school, and that's why it's called a charter. Now, private schools are completely different. Private schools do not receive any tax money. They can receive federal money, usually in the form of title money, special education, but they do not receive any state money, and they mainly function completely off of tuition and fees and registration. There are some private schools around here, obviously. This is the final thing that people talk about when they talk about schools, and that's called homeschool. Homeschool is an option in Mississippi. This is Mississippi Code 37, which discusses homeschool, and it says right here, when a compulsory school-age child is being educated, now compulsory in Mississippi is up to 16, so at 16 you can drop out, but if you're below 16 and you have to go to school. If a compulsory school-age child is being educated in a legitimate home instruction program, the parent or guardian or custodian decides that they want to homeschool their child at home or somewhere outside the public school. They have to complete what is called a certificate of enrollment. And they have to keep that on file. They have to do it every September 15th. And that's it. And no, and it says, well, what is this certificate of enrollment? So does it include lesson plans? Does it include curriculum and huge unit plans? Well, it includes the name and address, telephone number and the date of birth of the child, the name and address of the guardian or the parent who's going to be doing the homeschooling, and a simple description of the type of education. And that's it. That's the whole thing. And then you have to have a signature. So you would think this form is very complicated, but it's not. And homeschooling in Mississippi is extremely easy to do because you just have to fill the form out. This is an example of that form, and that's it. So that's all you have to do, which seems to be a little disturbing, because that's all you have to do. You only have to fill this sheet of paper out to homeschool your child. There's no lesson plans, curriculum checking, or anything like that. Homeschooling can be beneficial. It's been done if it's done correctly. There are homeschooled students in the county where I live in, and the parents get together and they share curriculum packets, and they buy very expensive curriculum packets for homeschooling. They do a really good job. But on the opposite end, there are some parents who abuse the system, and the child doesn't do anything, and that's sad. The book also talks about teacher preparation, the bachelor's program, the traditional program, but then it says clinical field experience. And that's something that you'll see once you get into the education field, is going out to the schools and examining the schools. When you're in a social foundations course and you're just beginning, I think, you're dipping your toes in the water about being a teacher, and you go into social foundations. Well, that's when you start saying, well, I kind of want to go out there to the schools. And then when you get your phase 2 admissions, you'll see the school district that you'll go to, and you get to observe some of this, and you get to watch, practicum, the 20-hour observation packet, the 50-hour observation packet, the block, and all those items such as that. Because what you're wanting to do is you want to see, do I want to do this? Is this what I want to do? And I've had a lot of people, when they go to that observation, I had a young man, he went to his observation, he went to practicum, which is a 20-hour observation packet. And he went the first hour and came back and said, no, I'm not doing this. And that's what we want. We want people to get into the schools as soon as possible and determine, because you don't want to get to student teaching and then realize it's not for you. He got to his first hour and he's like, no, I'm not going to do this. So it's sad that occurs, but he has to do what's best for him. He just said that he realized that he wanted to, he couldn't interact with high school kids. And that was his issue. He said, I just can't do it. He said, they pick on each other and they fight and they holler. He said, I need control. And he said, I cannot teach in an environment where I have to control it. He says, I need the control. So it's just kind of, it just wasn't for him. He's very successful now. I think he went into insurance. That's fine. School year length. The school year has to be 180 days. According to state law in Mississippi, it has to be 180 days. Now here where we get into the weird area. What is a school day? According to state law, a school day is the majority of the day, which the general idea is around 11:30. So that's why many schools get to 11:30 and then they dismiss early, and they'll have early dismissal because they say if we get to 11:30, then that's a full day, so we don't have to make it up. And also, so you have to make the 180 days because you're getting $9,000 per child per year. So $9,000 divided by 180 days would be like 45 bucks a day. So you're getting 45 bucks a day. I think that's about right. So 45 times, that's 10 to 100. Yeah, so about 45 bucks a day per child from the state. So if you miss a day, you've got to make that up, otherwise there's a problem. And that's why everybody wants to get to 11:30. That's why the school counter comes in to make sure that there's no lying on counts and making sure everyone's here and the people who are not here are not here, because we have to check that. We have to make sure, and that's why the school counter always comes in the morning, because everyone is supposed to be there in the morning, and after 11:30 most people start checking out. So school year length, 180 days. But teachers also, they add professional development days as well. Which courses will I teach? So many teachers ask, and if you look at, this is some of the subject areas right here. If you have a PE endorsement, you may teach PE, coaching, kinesiology, exercise science. If you have a social studies degree, you may teach history, political science, Southern studies, geography, anthropology, humanities, psychology. So if you're just an English teacher, you may not teach just English. Well, let's see what you're going to be teaching if you're, oh, I don't have that form, I'm sorry. I think it might be over here. English would be literature, English, or journalism. You maybe do either one of those. So the idea is you are an expert in all those fields if you get a license in that area. Many teachers always wonder, what I'll be teaching. This is a terminology that the book doesn't mention, but it's a terminology that you're going to hear a lot is, how many preps do I have? And preps are preparations. So if you're teaching 6 classes of U.S. history, you have 6 classes and 1 prep. If you're teaching 2nd and 3rd period U.S. history and 4th through 7th Mississippi studies, then you would have 6 classes, 2 preps. It's how many classes you have to prep for that are different. You don't want a lot of preps, or do you? Do you want U.S. history or English 1 all day? That would be rough. Do you want 2 preps? Do you want 6 preps? So you got to find your balance, and each teacher has their own balance when it comes to that. It talks about contracts and how teachers receive contracts. That's on page 15. Talks about salary and other compensation. We talked about that. Initial placement, salary schedules, incentive pay, merit pay, which we don't have. But employment contract, you will receive a contract. This is from the Mississippi Association of Educators website. The basis and security of employment in a local school district is a contract. So you will receive a contract. It's a 1-year contract. Coaches could receive a 2-year contract, but really I don't know of anyone who's received more than a 1-year contract. All right. How can an employment contract be terminated? Mississippi is a right-to-work state, and a right-to-work state means, what does a right-to-work state mean? That's a good question. A right-to-work state means that you have the right to work, but you don't have, the state can also terminate you if they have cause. So we don't really have a labor union. I know the Mississippi Association of Educators looks like a labor union, but they don't. There's no strikes, and they have a lobbying wing, but it's not really a strong labor union. You can be dismissed for mutual agreement. You can ask your employer, can you break your contract? Or you can be terminated for cause. The number one reason why teachers get terminated for cause is negligence. They're not at their assigned position when they should be. What are reasons for a contract employment to be terminated? Usually it is immoral conduct, neglect of duty, incompetence, but look at this right here, or good cause. If the school wishes to get rid of you, they can get a cause. They could say you were late one day. If you were late, they can find a reason. But for the most part, schools do not fire teachers. One thing, though, that's occurring more frequently is if you choose to break your contract, your one-year contract, mid-school, and if you break your contract mid-school, then the school has the right to petition the State Department for a one-year suspension of your teaching license. They used to not do that. They used to, if you broke your contract, they just kind of let you go. But because I think they didn't want to deal with the headache of you going down to the State Department and having a hearing. But nowadays, if you break contract, they are very likely just to go down there and petition for you to lose your license for a year. Now, if you get sick, heaven forbid you get an illness, they're going to let you out of your contract. But some people just break contract. I'm out. So that's something that can be punishable with a one-year suspension of your license. Can I resign if the principal or superintendent says they won't accept my resignation? Well, they try to help this. They're saying like if you've got a signed contract and you're leaving, you can't take this anymore and it's January. I'm done, I'm out. Or I want to move, I want to get out of here, I want to go to Oregon and live. And the principal says, we're not letting you out of the contract. Can you say, well, I resign? Well, no, you really can't break that contract. That's the thing, and that's when you're going to need to, they say right here, you should plan to work in another Mississippi district, but really you need to go get a lawyer then. You need to get a lawyer based on a contract because they're still going to petition, they have the right to petition to get your license suspended. This happens sometimes when teachers want to jump to another state. I'll give you a quick example of that. Let's say you're an art teacher, and art teachers are generally this way because art teachers love teaching art. A lot of them do, and they find an art job and they're like, that's the one I want. So it's also a very difficult job to get. So if you're an art teacher in, I don't know, Southeast School District, and you hear that there is your dream art job is going to open up January of this year, and they're looking for someone right now. And you get hired for that and you break contract together because that's a job that if I don't take that job now, then I'm not going to get that job. Well, if you break contract, that school district can say, we want to get your license suspended. If you want to go to another state, they can get your license suspended in Mississippi, which is going to reciprocate into another state as well. So breaking contract is not a good thing. Hopefully you have a very good rapport with your employer and you can talk to them about that. So definitely worry about, just talk to them. All right, see if they'll let you break contract. Non-renewal, they can give you non-renewal contract. One question is, what will the students be like? As you look in the book, it talks about incentive pay, merit pay. Well, we don't have merit pay. Salaries of administrative and support personnel. I will tell you this, that the salaries of your principals is very high. They make good money compared to what educators make. There's a general rule that they should make $1 more than the highest paid teacher, but Mississippi has 82 counties in Mississippi, 82 counties, but they have like 155 school districts. We have a large amount of school districts, which means we have a large amount of superintendents, assistant superintendents, principals, assistant principals, a large amount of higher administrative positions that receive a large amount of money. Superintendents make $120,000, $100,000, $80,000. I've heard all kinds of numbers. It's public record, and you can ask them. But generally, some of the bigger schools, you're talking about $120,000 when the first-year teacher makes $35,000. So you're going to see some anger arise from that. The state legislators have petitioned for reducing the school district sizes, start consolidating, bringing schools together and stuff like that. We'll see if that's a success or not. It's difficult to do, and I'll give you an example on that. If you take, let's just use Lauderdale County. If you take Lauderdale County School District, Lauderdale County and Meridian, and you say we're going to merge them into one school district. So take two school districts and merge them into one school district. Some administrators are going to lose jobs because we don't need two superintendents and we don't need all of these. So some of the people are going, and if people start losing jobs, then it hurts the economy, and also they start calling, and people start getting upset, and it's a political position in the state. So people start saying, we don't want to lose that. So that's a big issue right there. So politics is always into play. What will the students be like? There's all kinds of crazy videos out there of students doing crazy stuff. So let me just go ahead and show you a crazy video that hopefully will never happen.
It's a pitched battle in a high school, and look what happens when the gray-haired principal tries to break it up. He's body slammed by a student. The principal gets up and bravely steps right back into the fray. Cops move in to restore order. The disturbing video from a high school in Sacramento, California is being compared with the troubling takedown in a South Carolina school, where a sheriff's deputy body slams a 16-year-old female student in algebra class. And this is new video of the incident you haven't seen. It shows the verbal exchange between the student and the cop just before the violence erupted.
Just stand up.
We enhanced the audio so you can hear what's said.
I treated you fair last year, right? You don't know me? Okay, you're gonna come with me or am I gonna make you? Come on, I'm gonna get you up.
That's when the deputy puts the girl in a headlock and slams her to the floor. Sheriff Leon Lett announced he has fired the deputy, 36-year-old Ben Fields.
Deputy Fields did not follow proper training, did not follow proper procedure when he threw the student across the room.
But the teenager's lawyer, Todd Rutherford, says it's too little too late.
I don't think that's enough. I think this officer should be treated like every other citizen out there. If this was her father and he had walked into that classroom and done that to her, he would be in jail as we speak.
Deputy Fields is a 300-pound competitive weightlifter and also acts as the football team's strength coach. He was reportedly known in the school as Officer Slam. The sheriff says the disturbing incident was not racially motivated, pointing out that Fields has a black girlfriend, a fact making headlines everywhere.
People are going to ask the question, why didn't she just leave the classroom? Even if she was the worst child in that school, at that moment, as you can tell from the video, because the video does not lie, she was sitting there quietly. She wasn't running around beating up other students. She wasn't a threat to anyone in that school. She wasn't a threat to herself.
So that's just a principal breaking up a fight and ending up getting, slammed. One thing you'll notice about a lot of these videos, whenever I show them in class, is eyewitness statements vary, obviously. I'm going to show you a prime example. I am going to give you a PDF of an eyewitness statement of an incident. And the incident is the South Carolina police officer slamming the young girl sitting in the chair. The PDF is a 12-page report. You just scan it and everything else. You don't have to look. You don't have to read it if you don't want to. But what you'll notice with the PDF is, I'm going to pop it open right now if I can find it. What you'll notice about the PDF is there are 12 witnesses, and all 12 witnesses say different things. They're like, well, that happened and that didn't happen, or that was confusing. I'll send to you. I'll send you a link. I'll put it on the video link. I'm having trouble locating it, but I'll find it. But the whole idea is, whenever you see it, it's 12 eyewitness statements, and they all differ. So, should we allow cameras in the classroom? Should we video record more? That's up to you. But eyewitness statements always vary, and I'm going to show you after this video the PDF document.
Hands behind your back. Give me your hands. Give me your hands.
The student was asked to leave the class several times by the instructor at the school. Assistant principal was there as well. Then the officer was called on scene to actually have the student removed from that location. The student refused, and the officer acted that you've seen on the video. Now, again, what we saw was just a tidbit of what that video showed. Of course, we're going to look at what happened that led up to it, that incident that took place, and then what happened afterwards. All of that's going to take part in what the sheriff decides.
Okay, so I'm going to copy this PDF and attach it to the email that I've sent you with this YouTube link. So you'll see that on there. I'm also going to see if I can put on the YouTube comments on this video. But this is the PDF. What happened was the police officer was investigated for the crime, for slamming the person down, the student down, that you just saw in the video. Well, they did a Solicitor General investigation for South Carolina, which is like an independent investigation. And they determined that they were not going to press charges. And if you read, you can just skim over this, and they break down on why he really wasn't at fault. Even though the video looked bad, you'll see, that's how that worked. But what I want you to look at is eyewitness statements. Witness 1, Witness 2, Witness 3. All the witness statements, they start deviating a little bit. And that's something that's weird, is witness statements always are a little bit different, even though they saw that. One thing I will add about that video is the school was supposed to be what's called in loco parentis, which is in place of a parent. If your child is in that classroom and they say they're not getting up and they're not leaving, would you call the cops on your child? Maybe the school district was too fast to call the cop. This could have been easily resolved by doing this. Teacher gives the note to the principal and says, this child won't leave. The principal says, let's go. And the child says, no. Well, that's where we were. Well, what the principal did was he called the sheriff's department. He said, come here, resource officer. That's different. Well, a resource officer is a police officer. Would you do that to your child? Maybe the principal should have done this. Everyone go to another classroom. We're going to call this girl's parents, and then we're going to tell the parent, your child's suspended, obviously. This child's refusing to leave. Come get your child. That's all you got to do. There's no reason to arrest them for trespassing, which she was guilty of trespassing because she wouldn't leave. But they could have used a little bit more common sense on that and just said, we're going to call your guardian. Your guardian's coming to get you. You're going to have to leave. Now, when the guardian gets there and the child says, I'm not leaving to the guardian, then you say, well, they're not going to leave for us. They're not going to leave for you. We're going to have to get the cops involved now. But I think getting the parent involved or the guardian involved would have been a better step. But the police officer was not wrong because he was now arresting her for trespassing and she was refusing to comply with the police officer. But of course he slammed her because that's what I guess they're trained to do that, which the end result is he was fired. But now there's no reason to fire him because the Solicitor General says there's no prosecution here. He's now got a federal wrongful termination and a libel and slander case against them that he's now pursuing. Interesting. The young lady's also, I think she's filed a lawsuit for injuries. So that'll be interesting. That takes years to play out on those federal lawsuits. We'll see how that plays out. So I'll send you this PDF here. Simple as that. All right, so what I'm going to need you to do is, if you look in this email that I gave you, there was 2 Google Forms that you click on. You just click on those links and you complete your assignment. Real simple to do. In case you look at this desktop picture right here that you're looking at, that is my daughter playing soccer, and that is me as the coach. That is the moment I realized that my daughter did not want to play soccer. There I am in the middle going, please come on, let's play, and she's like, no, and she's crawling across the field. So that is the moment of, I was just like, you got to be kidding me. But anyway, so the whole point of the lecture is hopefully you got a general idea of Chapter 1. We can go into Chapter 2 as well. We may do that. Go ahead and read Chapter 2. Definitely read Chapter 2 for next week when we will come back to class. We'll be in class. So come on back to class. We'll go over it. So make sure you've read Chapter 2. That talks about, is teaching a profession? Yeah, read Chapter 2. I like that. Career ladders, professional development. And we'll get into teacher evaluation. We'll look at M-STAR. So you got an idea of how this lecture is going to work and how everything is, and it kind of laid back. But make sure you click on the Google Forms. That's your next assignment. Those will be due by, our class is Thursday, by Wednesday night of next week, Wednesday at midnight of next week. So make sure those are done before you come to class the day before. So real simple as that. So go ahead and click on those Google Forms and you can knock out that homework assignment. Thank you so much for listening.